I said absolutely not.
You said no.
Oh, yeah.
Why?
Because I was terrified to do it because it goes out live.
At 76, Stevie Nicks breaks her silence on the storm that tore through Fleetwood Mac. For decades, whispers swirled about her volatile bond with Lindsey Buckingham, but now she's done holding back. In a moment of raw honesty, she reveals the truth behind the final fracture. Join us as we unveil the truth behind their conflict. Unveiling the truth. For over 4 decades, the name Fleetwood Mac has not only conjured up timeless melodies, but has also been synonymous with profound emotional struggles. At the heart of the band's successes, as well as its most painful separations, lies the complex relationship between Stevie Nicks and Lindsey Buckingham. Their narrative goes beyond a simple love story. It represents a partnership marked by creativity, conflict, obsession, and power dynamics. Now, at 76 years old, Stevie Nicks has disclosed the final rift that led to the disintegration of their once strong connection. In a recent interview, Nicks clearly mentioned that she had managed her dealings with Lindsey for as long as possible. Furthermore, it was undeniable that she had offered him over 300 million opportunities. These were not the words of someone airing old wounds for publicity, but of a woman who had reached the very end of her emotional tether. The pivotal moment arrived in 2018 at the MusiCares Person of the Year event, which was dedicated to honoring Fleetwood Mac. While the night was intended to celebrate their extensive legacy, underlying tensions were brewing just out of sight. Nicks had selected Tom Petty's Free Fallin' for the set list as a heartfelt tribute to her late friend. And she also brought along a song she had recorded with Leanne Rimes called Borrowed, hoping it could be included in the performance with the band. However, things quickly fell apart. Sources close to the band revealed that Buckingham seemed disengaged and unhelpful. When the group was introduced on stage, Lindsey reportedly smirked or made a sarcastic gesture during Stevie's speech, an action that Nicks perceived as profoundly disrespectful. What might have seemed like a fleeting moment to others was, for her, the peak of years filled with tension, ridicule, and a profound absence of emotional safety. Stevie reportedly communicated to the management of the band that she would not be continuing her collaboration with Buckingham. However, she did not demand his removal from the group. Instead, she was simply setting her own boundaries regarding their working relationship. In response to this situation, Mick Fleetwood, the longtime drummer of the band and its de facto leader, made it clear that the decision was not hers alone. He stated that if Stevie chose to leave, it would mean the end of Fleetwood Mac as a band. Buckingham was fired soon after. How can a simple gesture cause such a split to the band? Flashback. The tension and conflict did not begin in 2018. In the late 1960s, Stevie Nicks and Lindsey Buckingham crossed paths in high school. Their bond transcended mere romance. It blossomed into a profound artistic partnership. They found harmony in music, effortlessly blending their voices, and soon became each other's sources of inspiration. When Lindsey received an invitation to join a band named Fritz, he was adamant that Stevie should be part of it as well. This moment hinted at the power dynamics that would later shape their collaborative efforts. He took the lead, while she followed. Yet, even at that early stage, Stevie possessed her own distinct voice, both in song and in spirit. Following the disbandment of Fritz, the duo embarked on their musical journey together. In 1973, they released an album titled Buckingham Nicks, which, despite its commercial obscurity, highlighted their unrefined talent and creative synergy. They faced financial struggles, living on the brink, yet their connection remained strong. To make ends meet, Stevie took on jobs as a waitress and a house cleaner, allowing Lindsey to concentrate on his production and guitar endeavors. In 1975, their lives took a significant turn when Mick Fleetwood extended an invitation to Lindsey to become a part of Fleetwood Mac. However, Lindsey had one condition: Stevie had to be included as well. The band consented, and just like that, Nicks and Buckingham transitioned from struggling musicians to key players in an emerging rock sensation. Their rise to fame was swift and overwhelming, with Stevie's enchanting stage presence and her exceptional songwriting talent showcased in hits like Rhiannon and Landslide, alongside Lindsey's sharp musical instincts and technical prowess. They infused Fleetwood Mac with a fresh vitality that propelled the band into the realm of superstardom. Despite the outward appearance of a successful partnership, the romantic relationship between Stevie Nicks and Lindsey Buckingham was crumbling. As Fleetwood Mac embarked on the creation of their legendary 1977 album, rumors Stevie and Lindsey had already parted ways romantically. However, the reality of their situation was complicated by the necessity of working closely together on a daily basis, both in the recording studio and during live performances. This proximity added a layer of tension to their collaboration as they navigated the complexities of their personal and professional lives intertwined. Rumors transcended the boundaries of a typical album. It became a powerful reflection of the personal struggles faced by the band members. During its creation, the group was experiencing significant internal strife. John and Christine McVie were in the midst of a divorce. Mick Fleetwood was dealing with the fallout of a broken marriage, and Stevie Nicks and Lindsey Buckingham were caught in a cycle of emotional upheaval, all while they were writing and performing music that poignantly captured the essence of their fraught relationships. Stevie composed the poignant and elegant song Dreams, which conveyed a message of heartbreak. Now, here you go again, you say you want your freedom. Well, who am I to keep you down? In response, Lindsey retaliated with the sharp and scathing track Go Your Own Way, which depicted Stevie as irresponsible and disloyal. Packing up, shacking up's all you want to do. The songs delivered a clear and direct message that resonated with listeners. The pain expressed in the lyrics was authentic and heartfelt. At the same time, the audience was fully engaged and attentive to the performance. As a result, this album rose to prominence, becoming one of the best-selling records of all time, a genuine masterpiece born from deep emotional struggles. Even after their romantic relationship ended, Nicks and Buckingham maintained a strong creative bond that fueled their work together. However, as time went on, underlying tensions began to surface, primarily due to both artists wanting to establish their own influence within the band. Nicks, who was experiencing a surge in her solo career and gaining recognition as a cultural icon, started to feel restricted by Buckingham's need for control over their collaborative efforts. She expressed her frustrations candidly, stating that Lindsey has a very controlling personality. It was challenging to create alongside him because he constantly wanted to dictate how she should sound or perform. Buckingham appeared to grow increasingly bitter about Nicks's ascendance, particularly as her solo career thrived with chart toppers like Edge of 17 and partnerships with Tom Petty and Don Henley. He sensed that she was diverting her attention from the band, while she believed he aimed to control her creativity and downplay her input. Their recording methods also showcased their differences. Lindsey was notorious for his meticulous approach to arrangements, frequently dedicating hours to perfecting every aspect of a track. In contrast, Stevie, who was more instinctive and emotionally motivated, favored capturing a moment rather than polishing it excessively. Their contrasting styles often led to conflict. Nicks mentioned that he would take apart her songs, rearranging them and anticipating that she would perform them as he envisioned. Stevie remembered, she noted that there were instances when she would walk into the studio and barely recognize what she had produced. As the years rolled on, Nicks and Buckingham kept collaborating, hitting the road and putting out albums. They even took part in a few reunions, notably The Dance in 1997, which reintroduced Fleetwood Mac to the spotlight. However, the relationship never truly mended. It only grew more rigid. There were instances of politeness and fond memories, but genuine harmony was elusive. Each reunion seemed to unearth past grievances. Other band members noted that there were constant disputes, chilling silences, and passive-aggressive interactions that impacted the whole group. Christine McVie once referred to herself as the referee between the two. Mick Fleetwood frequently found himself mediating decisions. The band, despite its brilliance, was marked by dysfunction, and at the core of that dysfunction were always Nicks and Buckingham. Yet Stevie remained. Maybe it was loyalty that kept her there. Or perhaps it was hope, a conviction that the music held greater significance than the suffering. However, each tour took its toll on her. Every argument left a mark. As she aged, the thought of enduring any more became intolerable. The impact of the split on band members. The split in 2018 between Stevie Nicks and Lindsey Buckingham marked not only the conclusion of their professional partnership, but also the disintegration of one of rock history's most passionate, enduring, and emotionally complex relationships. Following years filled with conflict, creativity, bitterness, and a shared legacy, this separation brought profound emotional repercussions for all parties concerned. The official dismissal of Lindsey Buckingham occurred just weeks after the MusiCares Person of the Year tribute in early 2018. He expressed that he was blindsided, or at least he claimed he was. Buckingham mentioned to Rolling Stone in a 2018 interview that it wasn't something he expected. It felt like he was dismissed from his own family. His first reaction was confusion, which was soon followed by anger. Buckingham asserted that he had only requested a brief postponement of the upcoming Fleetwood Mac tour to fit in his own solo dates, but he believed that Nicks had perceived this as a personal insult. He conveyed that, in his opinion, the band chose Nicks over him. He remarked that they had lost their sense of perspective. It turned into a scenario where, for the first time, he felt genuinely expendable. He conveyed that emotionally. It hurt him deeply. He articulated feelings of betrayal not only from Stevie, but also from Mick Fleetwood and Christine McVie, whom he considered his musical family. He noted that professionally, it represented a considerable loss. Fleetwood Mac was more than just a job for him. It was a legacy he had a hand in creating. Shortly after his dismissal, he initiated a lawsuit against the band for breach of fiduciary duty and breach of oral contract, aiming to recover lost touring income. Although the lawsuit was ultimately resolved outside of court, the legal proceedings validated what fans had suspected. Buckingham was devastated, resentful, and profoundly unsettled. He noted that the split had creatively driven him into a state of isolation. He continued to release solo work, mentioning that his self-titled album, Lindsey Buckingham, was launched in 2021, but he observed a significant change. The music had become more introspective, darker, and at times melancholic. Then, in 2019, he underwent emergency open-heart surgery, which he revealed had caused damage to his vocal cords. While recovering, he confessed that the emotional burden from the Fleetwood Mac fallout loomed over him like a shadow. He remarked, "You can go your whole life thinking things will come full circle, but some things just end, and that's it." For Stevie Nicks, the separation was described as both a painful experience and a liberating one. She expressed that she did not wish to dismiss Buckingham from the band, rather, she sought some distance. She craved emotional safety and peace. For many years, she had borne the weight of enduring a creative collaboration that frequently left her feeling belittled, manipulated, or silenced. It was in 2018 that she ultimately decided to prioritize her own well-being. In a subsequent interview, she stated that she had no desire to be in a band with him again. She decided to prioritize her own well-being. It wasn't out of spite, it was a matter of survival. After the split, it became evident that Stevie had found a new sense of clarity. She continued to perform with Fleetwood Mac, joined on stage by Mike Campbell, who had previously been a member of Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers, and Neil Finn from Crowded House, both of whom filled in for Lindsey Buckingham during performances. While many fans expressed their disappointment over Buckingham's absence, it was clear that Nicks flourished both creatively and emotionally in his absence. Her performances took on a more relaxed and joyful tone, and she seemed to smile more frequently. Bandmates and keen observers noted a newfound tranquility around her that had been absent for many years. However, that tranquility came with a cost. Stevie acknowledged that the breakup still left her feeling emotionally exposed, not merely due to the conclusion of a musical collaboration, but also because of what it represented: the definitive closure of her youth, her inspiration, her reflection, her legend. Lindsey embodied all of that, and severing their connection was not solely a professional matter. It was a matter of existence. She conveyed to The Guardian that she did not hold any animosity towards him. However, she stated that she had no intention of going back to that place. She emphasized that returning was not an option for her, as she had only just managed to endure it the first time. The fallout of 2018 transformed Fleetwood Mac's identity once more. While it wasn't the first instance of a member departing, this occasion felt distinct. The band had endured divorces, struggles with addiction, absences, and close calls with breakups, yet Buckingham had always found his way back. This time, however, it was definitive. Mick Fleetwood, always the peacemaker, sought to ease the narrative. "It wasn't easy. We all cried over it," he shared with Classic Rock magazine, "but we had to move forward. Stevie couldn't continue with him, and we couldn't continue without her." With Buckingham absent, they enlisted experienced musicians capable of matching his technical skill, yet lacking his emotional depth. Neil Finn and Mike Campbell delivered commendable, even exquisitely, but the intense, unpredictable chemistry that had characterized the band for years was missing. On stage, the atmosphere transformed. Some fans celebrated the band's newfound lightness. Others lamented the absence of Lindsey's sharpness. The musical duels that once played out as duets were no longer present. The tension that used to simmer during guitar solos had dissipated. The performances became refined, less spontaneous. Behind the scenes, the vibe was softer. Christine McVie expressed that she felt a sense of relief with the new lineup. However, even Mick acknowledged that Fleetwood Mac without Lindsey resembled a different entity altogether. The emotional fallout from the final split resonated far beyond the band itself. It sent shockwaves through the fans, the critics, and the enduring legacy of Fleetwood Mac. This was more than just the end of a lineup. It was the loss of a mythology. Nicks and Buckingham represented one of rock's most legendary creative partnerships. Their narrative was chaotic, poetic, destructive, and brilliant was woven into the very fabric of the band. Their love and anguish had birthed timeless music. Even decades later, their silence spoke volumes. In 2021, Lindsey revealed that he had reached out to Stevie through email, seeking reconciliation, not necessarily to rejoin the band, but to find some common ground. Unfortunately, she never replied. He says he believes she had her reasons, doesn't believe they ever truly said goodbye. Not in the right way. When asked about him, Stevie always responds with caution, a blend of nostalgia and determination. She often says she wishes him well, but she has to safeguard her space and protect her heart. Public's reaction. Stevie and Lindsey were described not merely as bandmates or former lovers, but as a part of rock and roll mythology. Fans who had been with them since the days of Rumors felt as if they had been witnesses to a Greek tragedy that spanned decades, one filled with passion, betrayal, beauty, and pain. And now they believed the final act had come. One Twitter user remarked in 2018, "It felt like watching your parents go through a divorce all over again, but this time it was clear they weren't going to reconcile." On platforms like Reddit and various fan pages on Facebook, devoted followers shared their emotions. Some conveyed their heartbreak, saying, "Lindsey was the essence of the band's sound. Losing him feels like removing half of their DNA." Others supported Stevie's choice, saying, "Everyone behaves as if she is being overly dramatic, yet she has dedicated over 40 years attempting to live alongside a man who ridiculed and dominated her." she is not obligated to endure further suffering from him. This conflict resonated deeply on a personal level, as it transcended mere music. It encompassed emotional survival, artistic liberty, and the consequences of unhealed trauma. Fans found themselves trapped between two iconic figures, each imperfect, each exceptional, and both too hurt to reconcile. Music critics found themselves divided. Although many admitted to Buckingham's crucial role in shaping Fleetwood Mac's sound, they also noted the emotional strain his presence had imposed on the band, especially on Stevie. Rolling Stone characterized the separation as a tragic but necessary rupture in one of rock's most volatile relationships. The Guardian presented a more pointed view, labeling it an overdue boundary, finally established by Nicks, the sole woman in a band that had long thrived on her mystique while overlooking her suffering. Some critics contended that Fleetwood Mac, in the absence of Buckingham, was missing the creative tension that had contributed to the emotional intensity of their music. The new lineup sounds good, but it lacks a sense of danger. Fleetwood Mac has always been associated with danger, whether emotional, musical, or romantic. Conversely, others praise the change as a much-needed healing journey. For the first time in decades, Stevie Nicks appeared liberated on stage, remarked a concert reviewer from Billboard. It seems that emotional tranquility brings its own form of energy. Older fans who had grown up listening to Rumors and Tusk expressed their sorrow over the conclusion of the original dynamic, despite recognizing its necessity. Many had emotionally invested in the hope for reconciliation, even though they were aware it was improbable. A fan shared on Tumblr, saying she saw them in 1977, saw them in 2014, and she kept hoping one day they'd heal. But perhaps healing involves moving on. Younger fans, who were introduced to Fleetwood Mac via TikTok and streaming services, often found themselves more understanding of Nicks. For these fans, her choice to sever ties with a challenging collaborator seemed less like a dramatic event and more like an act of empowerment. A fan remarked, "She gave us dreams, landslide, and endured 40 years of passive-aggressive energy. That's the Queen's behavior." For many years, fans had perceived the relationship between Nicks and Buckingham as both a source of creativity and a warning. Their romance inspired some of the most remarkable songs ever written. Yet their struggle to completely reconcile became a representation of how even the deepest bonds can become toxic over time. Following 2018, fans started to reassess the past. They rewatched old performances with a fresh perspective. Interviews were given new interpretations. Even the lyrics from Rumors and Tango in the Night were examined again, accompanied by feelings of loss and understanding. A fan expressed in a tweet in 2020, saying she always believed they would eventually reunite. But now she feels that the music itself served as their reconciliation. Everything else was too broken. The question on many fans' minds after the final 2018 fallout was simple: what comes next for Stevie Nicks? What's next for Stevie Nicks and Lindsey Buckingham? Following Lindsey Buckingham's exit from Fleetwood Mac, Nicks has increasingly focused on her solo endeavors, a path that, in many respects, reflects her emotional liberation. Her 2020 release, Show Them the Way, a poignant piano-led ballad inspired by a dream, stands out as one of her most intimate works in years. The lyrics meander between the past and the present, intertwining themes of hope and loss, alongside a sense of political urgency, all delivered in Stevie's signature ethereal style. She dedicated the track to the memories of political and cultural figures such as John Lewis, Martin Luther King Jr., and Ruth Bader Ginsburg. Yet fans couldn't overlook the layers of personal introspection that resonate throughout the song. In 2022, she made her comeback to the stage with a solo tour, captivating sold-out arenas throughout the U.S., frequently sharing the spotlight with fellow headliners such as Billy Joel and Brandi Carlile. At every venue, Nicks delivered her timeless hits: Edge of 17, Landslide, Stand Back, while also sharing poignant monologues that delved into her journey, her sorrow, and her sense of liberation. In contrast to previous tours marred by internal conflicts or lingering heartaches, this chapter of Stevie Nicks' journey feels distinct. She remains adorned in her signature black lace and shawls, still twirling like an ethereal being on stage. Yet this time, there's a newfound buoyancy to her aura. The burdens of the past appear to have been released. Stevie Nicks has progressed in her career while also taking the opportunity to reflect on her past, but on her own terms. In various interviews conducted over the last few years, she has shared her thoughts with a newfound honesty regarding the emotional toll of her relationship with Buckingham. She expressed this not out of bitterness, but with clear boundaries. For many years, she had shied away from directly addressing certain dynamics. However, since 2018, she has become more open about her experiences. Additionally, she has been deliberate in her efforts to safeguard her legacy. In 2020, Nicks unveiled 24 Karat Gold, the concert, a live concert film showcasing her 2016 solo tour. She has been actively collaborating with her team to remaster her earlier works, release rare demos, and reissue vinyl collections. These initiatives enabled her to revisit her own songwriting, much of which had been overlooked or undervalued in the context of Fleetwood Mac's collaborative identity. Fleetwood Mac pressed on with their tours in 2018 and 2019, but the absence of Buckingham marked a significant shift for the band. The impact of that loss was further felt in 2022 with the death of Christine McVie, the talented keyboardist, vocalist, and Stevie's dearest companion within the group. The passing of McVie appeared to confirm what many had feared. The iconic lineup of Fleetwood Mac is unlikely to tour again. Nicks has subtly distanced herself from Fleetwood Mac as a group. In her latest interviews, she speaks of it in the past tense. The sorrow of losing Christine, along with the unhealable rift with Lindsey, has bestowed upon Stevie a certain somber tranquility. Fleetwood Mac used to be her whole world. Now she holds its memory like a gallery of phantoms, exquisite, intricate, and inaccessible to the outside world. What lies ahead for Stevie Nicks? She is set to embark on more tours, create additional recordings, and write more poetry. She will continue to share her candid and captivating insights on themes of love, loss, and liberation. Although Fleetwood Mac may have reached its conclusion, her life and legacy is far from finished. She has reached a point where she no longer requires a band or a man to affirm her voice. As one admirer commented on a recent concert video, "She lost him. She lost the band. She lost her best friend, but she never lost herself, and that's the most Stevie Nicks thing ever." What's next for Lindsey Buckingham? In 2018, after the final fracture occurred between him and Stevie Nicks, arrived an even more daunting challenge. In 2019, he faced emergency open-heart surgery. The procedure was life-saving, but unfortunately harmed his vocal cords. For a period, there was doubt about whether he would ever sing again. In 2021, his wife of 21 years, Kristen Messner, initiated divorce proceedings which were later retracted. These unfolding events left Buckingham physically weakened, emotionally exposed, and publicly silent. Yet, Buckingham did not vanish. He rose again. In 2021, it was reported that Lindsey Buckingham had released a self-titled solo album, marking his first in 10 years, and a project that had faced significant delays due to his health issues and the fallout with Fleetwood Mac. The album, titled Lindsey Buckingham, was described as deeply personal and minimalistic, yet distinctly his own, featuring layered guitar textures, unconventional rhythms, and intimate lyrics that intertwined pain with pride. He mentioned in a press statement saying he wanted this record to reflect where he is now, uncertain but still searching. Songs such as Scream, On the Wrong Side, and I Don't Mind reflected the bittersweet essence of progressing while reminiscing. Critics lauded the album for its sonic sophistication and emotional sincerity. Numerous reviewers remarked that it was the most Buckingham album he had ever produced, possibly because for the first time there was no one else influencing it. After the album was released, Buckingham initiated a solo tour, performing in smaller venues compared to the arenas of Fleetwood Mac's peak. However, for many fans, these performances felt more authentic, a direct connection to the thoughts of an artist who was still in the process of healing and evolving. One of the most touching aspects of Buckingham's life after Fleetwood Mac has been his enduring emotional connection to Stevie Nicks. Despite the collapse of their professional relationship, he has consistently spoken about her with a unique blend of admiration, irritation, and yearning. In numerous interviews, he has characterized their 2018 separation as a kind of mourning, not merely for the music they created together, but for a lifetime of intertwined experiences that had never completely found closure. He disclosed that he penned several letters to her following the termination, not out of anger, but with a sense of reflection. Unfortunately, he never got a reply. He has also mentioned that she still appears in his dreams. "There will always be unresolved matters between us," he remarked, but he is gradually coming to terms with that. When Christine McVie passed away in 2022, Buckingham expressed his sorrow through a touching tribute on social media, referring to her as a soulmate, a musical comrade, a sister. Her death seemed to signal the end of any potential reunions, at least in Buckingham's perspective. Today, Lindsey Buckingham stands as an independent artist in every conceivable way. He has complete control over his music. He shapes his own legacy. He performs according to his own standards. In contrast to Nicks, who has surrounded herself with collaborators, followers, and public acclaim, Buckingham treads a more solitary path. This solitude is evident in his music, which remains profoundly introspective. He continues to write and record from his home studio in Los Angeles, frequently experimenting with innovative sonic structures, guitar tunings, and vocal harmonies. If you enjoyed this video, like and subscribe, and also click the next video shown on your screen.